This is why we can't have nice things. It's yet another example of why we human beings can't have nice things. It's yet another example of us slowly but surely screwing things up. Hmm. It's important to keep things moving. You gotta keep things moving. But some things, some things are worth holding on to and maintaining a deep appreciation for and recognizing that you're going to get what you tolerate. So if we tolerate lower quality, if we continue reducing the standard that we live by, that we hold ourselves to, that we expect of others, well, unsurprisingly, the standard will be a lot lower. So you're going to get what you tolerate. This is why we can't have nice things. What in the world am I even talking about? Well, I'm talking about really value and what value is and exploring and looking at it across the different arenas in our lives that it shows up in, because the idea of value, the concept, the word shows up in a lot of places. And I believe that it's been watered down and diminished and beat up and kind of drug and used for different people's purposes, as of course all words are, the way we human beings uh, represent and the way us human beings um, interact with different concepts. So it's always changing. That's fine. But my premise is that if we desire a return to high quality, high value, we have to appreciate it and demand it and work towards it. So, I want to talk about how the word value has shifted. And I think that it's shifted. It started out with having its roots in worth and virtue. The term comes from the Latin word valeri, to be strong, to be worth. So in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, it was tied directly to virtue and moral worth. Knights were said to have valor and value. Philosophers wrote about values in terms of truth, beauty, and goodness. And that's a term that whenever I hear somebody use it as one of their core values, beauty, it always stands out to me. And a lot of smart people talk about the importance of having something in your life, having some room in your house that you do consider to be beautiful. And that goes to having an appreciation for the things that we have and things that we own, which goes to the problem of the mass production of crap and planned obsolescence and just things not being as good or as high quality as they used to be. So fundamentally, it was a qualitative thing, not a quantitative thing. And the value took an economic turn the 18th and 19th centuries when Adam Smith and other economic ideas or economists began using the term value in use with how useful something is versus value in exchange, what you can trade it for. Marx then went on to talk about surplus value, giving the word a heavy economic gravitas or charge. Um, but value was still about labor, fairness, and society. In the 20th century, marketing got a hold of it, and post World War II, consumer culture, consumerism came to be, and we began to think about value as a good deal. So a good thing becomes a good deal. Grocery stores started offering value packs and value meals, and ads told us that we're getting value if we paid less for more. So you had to come out of pocket with a smaller amount, but look, you got this giant amount of food you could shove in your face, or you got this enormous piece of furniture versus just a small little thing. So I think right around that time is when the word lost a lot of its moral and philosophical weight and just got flattened into a price per unit kind of a thing. So where are we now? I think that if you say it's a value item or this thing is it's just if you say value, most people think cheap, affordable, it's a good deal. But in boardrooms, and certainly I talk a lot about personal development and value in the context of core values being principles that you live by. I think about our values as the filters through which the information we take in, we process it. We put that against our values and see if it's something that we want to pursue or we don't. So there is a split definition going on here. One is thin, it's kind of the price of something, and then one is thick, which is the principle of something. So, I mean, here's maybe a good way to think about that. Once it happened, once upon a time, the value was something that you would actually die for. Now it's something you get for $3.99 and it shows up without having to pay for shipping. So what used to be what used to be synonymous with honor and dignity and worth is now, you're getting two pizzas for the price of one kind of a thing. So, hmm. So why does that matter? Does any of this matter? I think that it does. I think that certainly there's a lot that matters here. It's not just language necessarily, but language is certainly a really, really important thing. But going back to the standards that we used to hold and not accepting cheap crap just because it's not expensive, it's a big shift. It's a big shift from how we think about it to that is of value. I can go to a discount warehouse and get enormous value for $100, or I could spend $1,000 on an item that I know that I'll keep for the rest of my life, and it can become a family heirloom, and it's something that is well produced, and there's an actual breath behind it, versus just something that it's a single use thing. I buy it and then I just throw it away. So it has very, very, very little value, yet high value because it's cheap. It's interesting. So I think that anytime that we get obsessed with getting a cheap deal, we forget about what is valuable about value, which is living with integrity, living to that high standard that we not only expect of others, but we certainly hold ourselves to. So it's a linguistic shift, but then also moving from this artisanal idea of value, of handcrafted, of one of a kind pieces to just mass produced. So, I mean, not only just 50 years ago, certainly hundreds of years ago, people still commonly owned things that were built to last and carried a major heavy meaning culturally and personally to your family. Think about a hand-carved box from your grandfather, or a fountain pen that you refilled and used for decades, or a pocket knife that was passed down and sharpened over and over again and oiled and really cherished, and something that people fought over when somebody would pass away. You get it's figuratively, well, and probably literally too, but it wasn't just that that these things were items or tools or possessions. They carried value because they were durable, they were beautiful, and there was a deeper connection to the skill that was required to produce it, to the story behind it. So not only is it an item on my coffee table, it's a conversation piece, and it's something that we carry with us through the different seasons and stages of our lives, which is a beautiful thing. Cheap abundance, globalization, and industrial mass production gave us just an abundance of cheap plastic crap that fills up our homes and then in short order fills up our landfills and is choking dolphins as we speak and stuff like that because they got the six-pack ring around. You get the idea. So instead of one beautiful pocket knife, we get 10 cheap ones. Instead of a absolutely astonishingly beautiful carved wooden dining room table, you get an IKEA particle board piece of crap that falls apart in a couple of years. Instead of heirloom clothing, you get fast fashion, which of course you just get rid of. So on paper, and apparently in practice, we collectively believe that more value for less money is a good thing, but the actual meaning of value has been inverted from quality worth keeping to cheapness worth replacing. So that, of course, has a cost. Everything has a cost. Whether we don't see it, it's like the canary in the coal mine kind of thing, or the frog in the boiling water. You throw the frog in a boiling pot of water, it's going to attempt to jump out. If you just throw the frog in the water and turn the temperature up, it'll just slowly but surely, you know, be consumed by the boiling water because it doesn't notice it. And that's probably a lot of what's been going on here. We traded the artisanal beauty for, I don't even know if artisanal is the correct word, but you get the idea, for mass, cheap, fast, without really probably thinking about it. So when you own, but of course, there's secondary consequences to all of this. When you own fewer things that you really appreciate, you care about them. You have pride of ownership. When you own a ton of disposable crap, just a mountain closets full of drawers full of garbage, you happily and easily replace them. And it's this vicious cycle. So cultivating disposability, not only with products, but inside us, we move on quickly. We don't form deep attachment to objects or sometimes even people or institutions. And if you think about it, so many of our institutions are in absolute shambles. They are shadows or shells of their former selves. And I just wonder if you can't map this directly onto it or map that directly onto this. There's some transitivity going on there. So, how many how many own something of great value today? How many of us own something that is really valuable? Do you have something that you are proud of, that you really love, that you know that will be left in a will or given to a grandchild or whatever? How many of those items do you have? Do you have any of those? And I know I've got a couple, and they came from my grandparents, and they'll go to my kids, and that's a special thing. So 50 years ago, most households had some handcrafted item. If it's jewelry or a piece of furniture, tools or musical instruments. Today, I mean, those are perfect examples, right? Today, we just have just that crap. We've got houses full of junk. We have huge McMansions full of McCrap. Does that hold up? I feel like it does. And stuff that's just gonna fall apart. Stuff that will not only do we get, not only is it not that big of a bummer when something no longer works, we're excited to get a new version, like phones, like all technology. So that's it's an interesting thing. We've been we've made the trade for we said, you know what, I'll trade quality for instant gratification. I'll trade I will trade the having of this item for a really long time for new, fresh, different, better. You get the idea. You get the idea. So connecting this all the way back to value, the word followed the same path as our possessions, from thick and enduring to thin and fleeting. We just didn't change what we buy. We changed what we actually or what they actually mean. So historically, it's a pretty weighty concept. It meant the worth of something, often grounded in principles, ethics, and inherent quality. And we talked about values as guiding convictions, or the value of a person's work as dignity and contribution. And it had a lot of gravitas because it connected to deeper notions of meaning, virtue, and intrinsic worth. What is really of value? What is of worth? What is worthy? Things are value. Things that are of value are worthy. They're of worth. Things that are cheap are not of value. Hmm. So, in everyday speech, our value, the use of value has slid into more of a consumer and commercial sense, getting a good deal bang for your buck. More features at a lower price instead of pointing out to what is actually meaningful. It's just affordable or advantageous. So you can think of marketing phrases like best value or value pack, and they've just trained us to associate the word with bargains versus ideals. So what's the big deal? Well, I think in a way, the word value, because it has that thinner meaning, and we used to tie it to what do you stand for? What principles are you unwilling to compromise on? And now it's just been reduced to how much can I get for how little? So both of these things have always existed or coexisted. Um, but it behooves us and benefits us. And I think that we are moving back towards things that are of real substantive value. What's to be done? We have, and I think that if you are to look around, you look at the rise over the past however many years it's been now, sort of the rise and if not fall of craft beer and craft cocktails and craft food and craft personalized dining experiences and things like that, where we have demonstrated a willingness to pay more money to get something that we perceive to be of greater value. And recognizing that we gutted a big portion of the United States by shipping off all of our manufacturing to other places because they could get it done at a lower price. So, is that real value, or it's just pure monetary value? And in so embracing, we water down and lose a little bit of sight or touch with what real value is. So, I believe that if you are interested in being a person of value, being a high value person, we must immerse ourselves in real value. To be valued, to feel value, to feel valued, I think it's important to be of value. This is an example of how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you start to view yourself and to think about yourself as someone of value, a high value person, then you will be able to, or you'll begin to interact with the world differently. And I think that that's a really simple shift. Am I of value? Well, do you do things of that are of value? Do you think valuable thoughts? And do you own anything that's of value? Do you have and focus on valuable things? Or do you simply consume things based on that price quantity trade-off? Are you able to get for 10 cents something that weighs 10 pounds? And is that really value? Or is that just a lot of crap that you've consumed or paid money for? Hmm, that's an interesting thing. Just because something's heavy doesn't mean it's of value, does it? In fact, a lot of the heaviest things are of the least value. Really heavy amount of stress and anxiety on me right now. I feel a lot of heaviness around the work that I need to do. You get the idea. So just because something is inexpensive but substantial does not mean that it is of value. And I think that as we see, because we're constantly in times of change, and that's speeding up. So how do we embrace value in our own lives? And we do that by embracing value in our own lives. We lean into it, we pursue it, we make decisions on what we believe to be of value. So in order to live life that embraces values, we simply must understand what our values are: beauty, quality. Can make a long list and then lean into those things. Come back to what really matters, to what's true, to what actually is of value. Real relationships, genuine human interaction. These are things that are of value. Hard work is of value. Commitment is a valuable thing. What is virtuous? Being of value. So, what is of value to you? Do you do anything? Do you own anything that is extraordinary, that is rare? Doesn't have to have a monetary value, but it can still have great value. So, what I'm working to do is to constantly be of value. I'm interested in creating value. I'm interested in doing valuable things, in doing special or unique things. And there's opportunities for you to do that. I'm not saying just go and seek this out for the sake of doing it. I'm saying if what I've talked about resonates with you, if you would rather pursue things that are of value versus just things that are expedient or cheap or a lot, then I think asking yourself those questions, what is of value to me? What can I do that is of value to others? And how do I focus on just value in my life? And you're a smart person. You can figure out how to make that happen. I think it's an important thing. And then I think that we'll be able to start having nice things again. And just that reminder that you get what you tolerate. So when we tolerate, as we have in so many aspects of our lives, real value being stripped away and replaced with non-substantive, vapid crap, then that's what we're going to be awash in. And that's what we're currently awash in. So let's focus on what is of value and let's do what is of value. And as always, do your part by doing your best.